If you've ever wondered how to get your members engaged and activated into your program right away, and if you've ever wondered how to get people to show up to your live calls, you want to pay attention to this episode. My friend Susan Bradley is revealing a strategy that I am so excited to share. She's breaking it down step by step, and after listening to this episode, you're going to know exactly how to run the new member calls that are leading to fast action and how to get an over 90% show up rate to those calls. All right, friends, I have a special treat for you today because I am chatting with my friend Susan Bradley, which when I first met Susan, she told me about a company that she had started and sold that was one that you may be familiar with as well. Have you ever been going through an airport or maybe the zoo and you hear that little squeak, 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 squeak as a little toddler is running behind their mom? Well, I have heard that so many times, and Susan is the founder of the company that made those shoes, those little squeaky shoes. It was called We Squeak. It's one of the many e-commerce companies that she has built and grown and sold. And now she runs a company called Social Sales Girls, where she teaches e-commerce store owners how to grow a business that gives them control over their work week and, most importantly, pays them well. She's been a longtime e-commerce store owner. She's super passionate about helping entrepreneurs create wealth and financial independence. And one of the things that I love the most about Susan is that she is so humble. She is the last to tell you about all of the success that she has had. But when you can pull it out of her, there's always really, really good strategies lurking. And when I heard her tell me about this one thing that she started to do inside of her membership, I knew immediately I needed her to come on this podcast and give us all the juicy details because it relates to something I've talked about before, which are these member welcome calls or member success calls. And she has some unique twists to it that get people showing up more and taking more action. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Susan, thank you so much for coming and giving us all of the details on how to do this.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm like, wow, you make me sound really good.
Well, you are really good.
I am actually not the founder of We Squeak.
Okay, tell me about this.
Yeah, I bought We Squeak. I had a small chain of stores. That was my first business, and it was a direct sales business. And when I sold that, We Squeak was one of the companies, one of the products that I had as a wholesale supplier, and I knew how much people loved them. And so I actually first started working for We Squeak as someone who sold the products to stores in Canada. And then when I got the opportunity to buy the company, I bought it. But I wish it was the founder. How's that? Does that work?
Well, it actually makes me love you even more because I've thought about what it looks like to buy companies before. And I think most of us, we get a little panicky inside about the idea of buying or selling a company. So the fact that you recognized the opportunity in a company, you bought it, you grew it, and then you were able to sell it and make a pretty penny on it, I think is amazing. I love that.
It's such an opportunity. I think that for most of us, our businesses can create income, but many times, and particularly in product-based businesses, Shana, the real wealth comes when you sell the business.
Yeah, that's so good. Okay, so before we dive in to the strategy that you're going to be talking about, I want you to tell me a little bit about your favorite community that you have ever been a part of. What did you love the most about it? This could be a business community or maybe a personal community, but what was it? What are some things that you loved about it?
Okay, so this is a little bit obnoxious, but I'm just going to lay it out there. It's my community at the Social Sales Girls. That is the community that I've had the most, that has just filled me up actually since we built it. And it's in two parts. It's certainly our clients, and I love watching their progress, and I love there's just so many smart people out there, right? That you would never be able to meet or see some of the amazing things they do unless you were in a community like that. And I love how they connect with each other and support each other. And it just makes me realize this is why I do this. But also our community of coaches and mentors. Like, they are some amazing giving people, and oftentimes seeing them feel successful and lifting them up and sharing them with our community makes me feel like a boss.
Yeah. It sounds like so symbiotic. Like it just, the team is working well, the coaches, the mentors, the members, everybody's really thriving. And I know that you see that from an ROI perspective as well. It's not just the warm and fuzzies, but it's what's led to such a successful membership for you. So tell us a little bit about who you serve in Social Sales Girls and just a little bit about that program.
So we help online store owners, so product-based business owners, how to grow businesses, like how to get past the, okay, I've got a website, I've got a super cool product, might have sold on Etsy or even on Amazon or even on eBay, one of those places. I have some proof of concept. And then I'm put this website out there and I'm like, oh, nobody's coming. We're not selling anything. And so we often find people right there. They have a beautiful website, a beautiful product, proof of concept, and they're stuck. So these are the people that we can help the most. And we just show them how to get more eyes on their product, how to become more visible. How do I take those people who are visiting my website and over time convert them into customers? And then how do I maximize the lifetime value? So that's what we do. And what we are really passionate about along the way is making sure they understand that they need to pay themselves too. That even though it's super fun to put more money back into the business, need to get paid.
They need to get paid. Yeah. Yeah, which I think probably from a product-based business where they don't have as high margins as many of us experience inside of the, digital or information space, that's something that often gets pushed aside, I'm sure, because they think, oh, buy more product, buy more product. And then they don't realize why they're burnt out, they're working two jobs and all the things. So I'm really glad that you emphasize that. And I know one of the things about you is that you are very practical. So it's not a bunch of fluff in there. You get in detail on how to run Facebook ads. You get in there talking about their numbers and how they run their numbers. And you have coaches that are supporting them along the way too, which is why this, the way you're doing your new member calls, I think is so valuable because not only is it setting them up for success, but it's also building relationship with and seeding for them this concept of working with a coach or investing in a coach inside of your community. So tell us a little bit about these new member calls and how you have it set up now and why you decided to set it up that way.
So it all started. Well, I guess, I used to do the same thing that everyone does. You bring in some new members and then you have a welcome call and you show up on Zoom and you're the talking head and they all sit there and watch you as you share your screen and, go through your training and then show them where the resources are. And then they might ask a few questions and you say goodbye and cut them loose. We used to do that too. And then I decided we have great retention, but it's really important to me to make sure that people make progress. And so we decided sometime last year to figure out where it was in the life cycle that people are most likely, new members in particular, are most likely to leave us. And what we found out was it was month two. So they came to the call, we cut them loose. Month two, they're like, I think our retention rate in month two was like 80%, whereas our overall retention rate is 95 and over. And so I thought, okay, so this is where we have to focus. We have to focus on that new member call and we have to get them to buy in. Like we really have to get them to buy into the experience. And so what we do now is we invite everyone who has joined the inner circle in the last 6 months to come to what we call a 30-day action plan call.
I love the name.
Yes.
Feels a lot more fun than an orientation call.
Right?
Just you're winning already just with the name.
Yeah, they're not going to hide in the bathroom like you did in high school when there was an orientation. So yeah, so it's every 2 weeks. Our member success lead coach runs the call with another coach, and so we invite them to that call. And the promise of that call is that they are going to leave the call knowing exactly what they have to do for their business to make progress in the next 30 days. So on the call, it's quite hands on. So we have them set a goal for themselves and then what's the future vision? What do they want to have accomplished in 30 days? And then we actually show them what the work is that they need to do. And we help them manage their expectations too. Like maybe that's not a 30-day goal. Maybe that's a 90-day goal, but let's walk it back and what's realistic for you to do in 30 days. And then we actually show them what it is to do, show them where the training is, and have them make a list of what they're going to do in the next 30 days. And they can come to those calls for the first 6 months.
Okay. So how long is the call?
So the call is, it's about 90 minutes actually.
Okay. 90 minutes. And then is it a group call or a one-on-one?
So it's a group call. So we have 2 coaches on the call.
I would guess one kind of leading, one kind of in the chat, maybe.
Sort of, yeah. That's how it starts. But then what happens is we break them out. We break them out into 2 groups, each led by a coach. Now, they're not large groups. I would say that we get the max we will take on a call is 40. So they're smaller groups, and so they go through the regular, okay, hi, welcome, la 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 la. Here's the classroom for the new people.
Like a little true orientation, just sort of,
yeah,
what to expect.
Quick orientation, and then we turn it and we want it to be all about them. And so they'll break it into 2 small groups, and then each coach leads a breakout room, and it's a pretty tight, so you have like 2 minutes to to tell us a little bit about yourself. And so they do that. So the people in the small groups get to know a little bit about each other. What's my business name? How long have I been in business? Where am I at right now? What stage? We have a little quiz that will stage them in their business.
Great connection point. I love that.
Yes. And then after that, then we send them on a journey and we ask them to take a few minutes and go check their a particular metric in their business. So we keep them busy, right? Go check and see how much traffic you got to your site in the last month and come back and report back. So they'll report that in the comments. And then they go from there. So people who have a certain amount of traffic and less, here's what you need to do. And people who have higher amount of traffic, here's where you're at next.
I love it. So you just have this one metric that you need them to gather. And then from that, you tell them sort of, here's your next step.
Yeah.
Which I always say the purpose of orientation and any type of orientation call is to help build their belief in the program, their belief in themselves, and to leave them with their very clear best next step. And so I love this because you're not making a general best next step. You're saying, if you're in this bucket, this is your best next step. If you're in this one, this is your best next step.
Right. And of course, they have an opportunity to ask questions in the small group. If they have a clarifying question or they have, some factor, well, let's get real. Everybody thinks their business is a little special. But,
We're all unicorns.
if they have that, they have an opportunity to ask. And really, I think that we're iterating as we go. I think we can do even better. I think that the next step for us is to allow them to connect with each other a little bit too.
A little bit more. Yeah. So the action plan, is that like a pre-done 30-day roadmap that you all have created? Is that what that looks like?
No. And the reason it's not is because people come to us at different stages on our success path. And so what we do have is, if you're in the bucket, here's your action plan. And if you're in this bucket, here's your action plan. And of course, if you've come, you potentially could come to several of these calls. And if you have, let's talk about what your goal was last time and where you're going this time, the work you're going to do. And so I think it helps people understand that there's an answer for their questions within the membership. And if they need a little help to find it, they have the opportunity to do so.
Yeah. Because this action plan, it's going to tell them the milestones, but it's going to point them to the resources in your program that are going to help them achieve that particular milestone, right? And then they're able to attend that call whenever they want, how many times they want, or what does that look like?
So the invitation is extended to them every 2 weeks for the first 6 months that they're a member. And the other thing they get to do is they get to meet our coaches and create a connection there. And of course, they can go into the classroom and they can book a one-on-one with that.
Yeah, you have paid upsells for one-on-one coaching, which is so great because I know a lot of my clients are coaching clients and they look for opportunities to get their coaches in front of their members so that they can build that connection and that credibility really with their coaches. And this is giving you the opportunity to do just that, which serves that upsell for the coaching. I'm sure it helps the coaches feel better because they're more plugged into your community. And your community, like you said, is making more progress, feeling more supported, which definitely is going to make them stay longer.
Yeah, I think so. So right now what we're doing, because I am the numbers girl,
Yes.
I have a lot of
Love it.
feelings, so I gotta have the data. And so we're just tracking cohort retention for 6 months and seeing how it's working.
Oh, I'm a big fan of tracking cohort retention. So I'm really glad to hear that you're doing that. But I'm not surprised because we both love numbers. And I know that you're always like, I don't know. What does the data say? I have no feelings about this decision. I just want to know what the data says. So, and I'm sure you're getting some great feedback already from the calls that you can see inside of your community and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, we are. I think the biggest downside right now is we've got people who've been there a year going, wait, what calls? How do I get on one of those calls? And so I think that we have to look at what we're doing as far as our monthly deliverables, because I think this is something that everyone needs.
Hey, friend, real quick. I know Susan has already shared some really amazing tactics and strategies with you, and it's been a lot, and there's even more to come. I don't want you to miss a thing, so I've created a guide that's breaking down everything that we talk about in this episode and is even giving you some pro tips from me and my favorite tools and resources that I use to do calls like this. You can access that guide via the link in the notes or go to shanalynn.com/Susan. All right, back to the episode. So there's one thing we haven't talked about yet, which I think is super genius and applies not just to this concept, but to a lot of other concepts. In fact, before Susan and I started recording, we were talking about how I was going to try and leverage this concept in a whole lot of different ways. But the value of it in this situation is that it increases the perceived value of the call and it leads to a much higher show up rate, which we all know if you're running these types of member success calls or orientation calls, people will register for them, but there's no skin in the game, right? So they don't really show up oftentimes for those calls. But you found a way around this, and I feel like this is coming from your retail background. So tell us what you're doing right now to help increase the show up rate.
Wow, I didn't even identify that that's where it might have come from. So it's expensive to run these calls, right? It's using a resource, and I was at first when we did it, I was a little bit disappointed in the show up rate. And actually what happened, Shana, is one day I had to be the wingman on a call, and I was floored by the number of people that hop in and out, hop in and out, in and out, in and out of
Oh,
this
wow.
meeting.
Yeah.
And that, like, they might be on their phone in the car and then they're home and then they jump on. And I was like, oh, this is like, how can you really take on anything if that's how it is? And so I was thinking, how can we make this more important to people and show the value? And so what we did is, instead of just saying, hey, here's this call you can attend, we said, hey, every new member is entitled to this support when they first join for the first 6 months. And the value of these calls is, I think it's $49 or $45.
Which is similar in price to the monthly cost of your membership, just for some context. Yeah.
Yes, it is. And but because you're a new member, here's a coupon code to enter and get the call at no charge. And so when we did that, our booking rate, or our show up rate, went from 31% of the people that were invited to 95%.
Oh my gosh, that is so good. I love numbers like that.
And remember, we're just kind of learning as we go, right? Like, we'll have to figure out, what do we need to do to keep that fresh over 6 months. But we really just started implementing that 2 months ago. So, it was like, woohoo.
Yeah, woohoo. You saw that immediate jump in show up rate, which I know for so many of us is one of the biggest challenges that we face right now when everybody is distracted by everything. We all have this FOMO of what's going on, but we also have this waiting on the next best thing. And I know a lot of times in business, it's really easy for people who are a part of our programs to prioritize the thing that feels like it's burning down right now. Oh, I have to get back to this client, or I have to take care of this inventory issue, or I have to do that. But when they feel like they've been given something and that they've been given this opportunity to get something for free that would cost them, that is what's getting them to actually set aside the time on their calendar and show up for something like it's an intentional invite.
Yes.
So good.
It's like value. Okay, so what is this call worth? This call is worth $45. So if I don't do it, I just lost out on $45.
Exactly. And are you guys offering these at a variety of different times of day throughout, like to accommodate it, or is it just?
Yeah, because we have a pretty large cohort of members from Australia. And of course, we work in North American time. So one call a month is at a time when the Australians would be, you know, less groggy.
Yeah. And do you offer replays?
No.
You don't, because it's an active participation call. So good. So good. Okay. So if I were going to try and implement this inside of my program, whether it's a coaching program or a course or a membership or whatever it might be, what is one piece of advice that you would give me as I'm getting started with the concept of, let's say, taking what is kind of a mundane orientation call right now, because I know a lot of people are doing those. And if you're not, at least start there. That's my advice. But if you're not, if you're doing just the routine orientation call and you're not doing this sort of interactive action plan, you're definitely not using the coupon code advice. What is one piece of advice that you would give to somebody that wants to sort of move to this model?
Oh, I think it's just do it. I think that we're all so afraid that if we change what we do, someone's going to notice and call us out on it. But the truth is that nobody's really paying that much attention to us. None of us are that important that people are stopping and watching what we're doing all the time. And so I would say just do it. We just did it. I think the important part of just doing it is while their credit card is still warm from signing up for your membership, that's the time to make them that offer because that's when you already have their attention and when they're most likely to read that and open the email and say, "Oh, I absolutely need that call, that coaching call, and look, sign up for that now. It's free."
So do you send that email right after they join? When do you know when that
It's part of their onboarding. Yeah, it's part of their
it's part of
onboarding.
their onboarding?
Yeah. Yeah, because it's so hard. Attention is the hardest thing for us, right, to get?
It is. It is. And that gets them started and activated right away. And for those of you that have listened to this podcast for any amount of time, you know that member activation is really important to me. So doing something like this that not only gives people a reason to show up, to connect with other members of your team, to connect with other members, and then to create a game plan for how they're going to make progress in a short amount of time using the resources inside of your program. It's like a trifecta of amazingness. So I am so grateful to you, Susan, for coming and for sharing this with us, especially in such detail. I know you're kind of in the early phases of it, so it was probably, you may have been a little hesitant to come on and share when you didn't have all the data, but I'm glad that you did because I think it's going to get some other people moving towards this model even sooner. And especially in the season that we are in right now, I think we're finding that people want this kind of personal touch. They want this kind of connection more and more. And it's really going to make the difference in the memberships and the programs that survive beyond the season and those that don't. The ones that are showing up in this kind of intentional way to support their members, I think, are the ones that are going to make it.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think if we think about our own behavior, it wouldn't be that different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. What would you want to show up for? Yeah, that's true.
Right?
That's so true. All right, Susan. Well, I want to make sure that people know how to connect with you. So if I'm not mistaken, you have a podcast of your own, right?
I do.
Okay, so tell me about that podcast. And then I know you have a growth plan workshop that you have going on. And so I want you to tell me a little bit about that as well.
Sure. So my podcast is called The Roadmap to 50K on Shopify. And it's really just a weekly episode I try and deliver at least one actionable step each week. Look at here's the problem, here's something that I think will help you with that. So here's what I want you to go do next. I try and deliver real actionable information for our listeners. And so you can find us there on all the regular podcast channels. And our growth plan workshop is really it's kind of close to my heart. And so when people who are clients who have this beautiful product, this website that they've invested a lot of emotional energy and sometimes money into, when they start off and they're not getting sales. And I think we're all a little bit like this. We tend to look within and say, hey, what am I doing wrong? What is wrong with my website? What is wrong with my product? I bet you my product's too expensive. Like, you know what it's like, right? We all do this.
Been there 1,000
A
times.
thousand times. I should offer free shipping. That'll change everything. And so in the growth plan workshop, it really helps you see where you're at right now, what you need to do to get the sales that you want. And it takes the focus off of the internal. What am I doing wrong? And what can I change to the external? It's really mostly for most of us, whether we're selling products or information, the real sales problem is that we don't have enough eyeballs. We don't have enough visibility. So we give them some data to track and measure so that they can see their progress. And we show them what are the important things that is going to take the emotion out of that journey and get you on a path to, oh, I do this. And here's a normal result. Here's my result. I'm going to work towards normal. So I love that because when people go through that workshop, they come out on the other side and say, oh, I'm okay. And actually, I did make progress last week. I'm just not to the place where I'm going to, have $5,000 worth of sales a day, but I know how to get there now.
Yeah, that's so good. And you're giving that to us for free. There's going to be a link in the notes. And one of the things that I really enjoy about this concept of the growth plan workshop, and I hear you say, take the emotion out of it, look at the data, is that has been a big part, I think, of what has led to so much success for you in the e-commerce space. And now you're just modeling and teaching people not something that you read in a book, not something that you got from another program, but something that you have actually lived out, you've learned from, you've seen success, and you're like, this is what works. This is the formula, or at least the framework that you need to apply to your business to reach the kind of growth that you want. So it's tried and true. And I would say if you have an e-commerce business, you know this by now, you probably already are, but you need to be subscribed to that podcast and get that growth plan. But even if you don't have an e-commerce business, I have learned so much from Susan over the years. We're in the same mastermind, so we've been friends for a while. I have learned so much from her. She is so wise in all things, not just business, like the, how to run your programs and all of that kind of stuff, but in the behind the scenes of business, of thinking about how are you positioning your business maybe to sell, or how are you leveraging your team in your business. She's so wise in so many of those areas. So get into her world however you can, my friend. That is my advice for you today, is to get into the Susan Bradley world and take all the notes that you can along the way. Susan, thank you so much for being here. I know I'm going to have you back at some point to talk about another amazing strategy that you're doing. But until then, we will stay connected and keep brainstorming on how I can use this coupon code thing in 1,000 other ways, because I think that's genius.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me. You're my favorite today.
I love it. I love it. So good. All right. See you, friend.
Bye.